Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Unprofessional Entrepreneur. This week I am joined by a very special guest, and I'm very excited because we're going to talk about probably like the one social media platform that I've never given the time of day to. Um, and I always feel a bit like a creeper when I introduce people on my podcast because I'm always like, hey, I've stalked you for years online. Cool. Introduce yourself. I want to say I've followed you since 2019. I want to say we started our businesses at the same time. We also have like our birthdays one day apart, so I feel very connected to the chaotic Gemini energy. Um, but I'm gonna leave that there and let you introduce yourself because you got shit to say. So if you want to introduce yourself to everyone.
I love my Gemini girlies. anyways, hi, hello. My name is Jen, and I'm the CEO of Neat the Agency. We are a boutique PR and marketing agency based out of Louisville, Kentucky. And we started back in 2019. This was basically my corporate escape. I had a really traumatic corporate experience. I went to business school thinking I was going to climb the corporate ladder, as one does, and joined corporate America. And at about 6 months in, I dealt with sexual harassment and bullying, and it was tough because I remember going to HR and saying like, hey, this is what's going on. And at the time I was the youngest person in my company. And part of me was like, well, maybe this is just part of the journey. Maybe everybody goes through this in corporate and this is just how it is. I didn't really know better, but I knew that I was having anxiety attacks every day at work, and that probably wasn't great. So I went to HR, and HR had said, this is a really bold accusation. I would be careful moving forward with this. I had been told that my job was even in jeopardy if I pursued this as well. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to find something else. What can I do? And I thought, I'll just start my own business. How hard could it possibly be? It's pretty naive at that point in life. And I also am the person who is like, well, I can do anything. I can figure it out. I can Google it. I can ask people questions. And I did. And so I got started. It was really rough in the beginning. I was doing a lot of consulting and coaching. And that's really where I got my beginning because I was a team of one. And eventually I say me. I'm like, it was
Yeah.
just me. I was the we, it was me. I had clients who were asking just for full service offers. They wanted done for you social media marketing, which I had done at different agencies and in corporate before. And they had wanted help with PR. And I was like, okay, we can expand. And by we, I mean me. And me is going to need other people on the team to make a we. So I ended up hiring a couple of team members and eventually grew the team. I think we're about 13 or 14 now, a team of all women. We are all millennial and Gen Z, which is really fun. They're like, I realize how toxic this sounds, but they're like the sisters I never had growing up. They're so freaking fun. And I love waking up every day to work with them. They work so well with our clients. I don't have to worry about our clients because I've hired the most amazing people who take such good care of them, and they care so deeply about the work that they do. So I ended up with a really great team. We've worked with almost 300 clients in some capacity since 2019. And our clients have been featured in Forbes, New York Post, the Washington Journal, every major publication that you can think of, our clients have been featured in. So it's been a really fun experience. We've gotten our clients some great results. And whenever it comes to me personally, I have a really tough time talking about myself because I feel like so much of what I do is business. But in my free time, I enjoy spending time with my husband. We got married about a year and a half ago. So I love hanging out with him. We love exploring Louisville and going to different bars and restaurants. I love drinking bourbon, of course, because that's where Neat the Agency came from. I like bourbon neat. And I love spending time with my dog and reading books.
I love it. I love it. And I feel like I'm always so impressed by your agency structure because, I mean, it's like massive compared to mine. I have a team of two. Um, but I feel like I've watched you grow, right? Like I saw you in the consulting phase and then into the like team of one, social media management, before you expanded from just marketing into PR. And like in my head, you're still Neat Marketing, even though I think it's been like almost 2 years since you were pregnant. And I was like, yeah, Neat Marketing. I was like, no, Neat the agency. But I'm curious, how did you move into PR? Like, where did that come from? Because in the beginning, like to me, you were just social media or like marketing media marketing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we got to the point where we were doing a great job with the services we were offering. And then we had clients asking, well, do you know any good publicists or do you know any good PR agencies that really want to land features and work with influencers and get onto podcasts? And I thought, well, I've gotten people on a podcast before and I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of influencers back when I worked for different agencies. So I'm like, I can do this. Why are we not offering it? And part of me was like, in the back of my mind, it was, no, you have to niche down. You have to niche and niche and niche and niche. And I was like, okay, at what point am I leaving money off the table by niching myself so small? And we literally have clients who are asking for this. And then what I'm doing is saying, I can't offer it. I'm sending them away to another agency and I'm not seeing them again.
Mhm.
And so I was like, we can do this. We can offer it. And so I hired a couple of really great publicists to support me because I had never pitched media before. I don't have any experience in traditional media, digital, print, TV, radio. I knew nothing when we were getting started, but I hired people who did know something. And so, yeah, I made some really great hires and we expanded into those offers. We initially were undercharging by quite a bit. We were essentially breaking even, if not losing money on PR retainers. And it was to build up social proof and say like, hey, we can actually do this. You should trust us. And since then, our rates have doubled from what we were originally charging because we built up so much social proof over the last couple of years. But yeah, that's one thing that I would recommend is don't let, well, two things actually. One, don't niche yourself so small into a box that you miss out on opportunities. I don't know where that thought came from, like niche and niche and niche yourself so far down.
It's very pushed in the online space, so
Maybe that's where I got it from.
yeah.
But you don't have to. You don't have to niche yourself so far down. You can broaden your horizons a little bit. And with that, your business is going to grow so much more because if you are such a niche business and you serve a very niche audience, you're only going to be able to grow so much. Like, yes, you might be like that go-to expert in that very specific thing, but you're missing out on so many opportunities. And so if you don't know how to do something, hire somebody who does. There are plenty of people out there who are experts in what they do, and they would love to work for you. And so hire those people and lean on them as you build out that part of your business. So we've expanded into PR and we're now expanding into creative as well. And I don't know the first thing about branding and web design, but I know how to hire people who do know how to do that.
This is like something I was thinking about and I didn't put it on my list of questions, but we're here, so we're going to go there because I've seen you talk about it on Instagram that you're looking to acquire an agency or a business. And I think you started to and it fell through. So now you're like back in the market of looking, and you said you're looking for like creative. So what kind of agency business are you looking for? Like web design or like social media management, or go for it?
That's a great question. Yes, you do follow me pretty closely, and I love that. I'm so flattered that you know what's going on in my world. My ego is feeling so good right now. So thank you for that. But yes, we worked on an acquisition for about 5 months between getting to know the business, sending out a letter of intent, and then doing due diligence, which due diligence is such a journey on any business. It's such a headache. And if you're not a numbers girl, I'm not a numbers girl. And so trying to understand what was going on in the business was really, really difficult. And so we were looking at numbers between myself, my COO, and then we hired a fractional CFO to help us as well through the process. And then we had different attorneys we were working with and a business broker. So I had really good people in my corner. But 2 weeks before we were supposed to close, we just found some red flags and we knew that we weren't comfortable moving forward. So we called it quits. But yeah, it was 5 months of due diligence. And then we got down to like the 1 yard line and had to call it quits, which is really, really hard. But I'm realizing that that's going to happen where you're going to see a business and it's going to look really, really great until you start to dive into the books. And then you're going to see things that maybe just aren't adding up and you can't get an explanation for it. And you're not going to be comfortable moving forward. And so I think I'm going to have a lot of these conversations with different businesses before I find the one that's a really good fit. So we are marching forward. And so I am looking for, there's a couple of businesses I could see myself buying. I want them all to be complementary to what we do at Meet. So I want it to be a strategic acquisition. So either a creative agency that does web design, they do branding, they do content production. That would be one that I'm looking for. The other one, I guess there's two others. The other would be some sort of tech business. So specifically a CRM business, because we use a CRM in the business and we spend money on it, right? So I'm kind of looking at like our P&L and I'm like, what are we spending money on? What makes sense? And so that would make a lot of sense. Or another platform we use is to source media contacts. And so a platform like that to me would be really interesting to acquire. And so if it's not an agency and it's not tech, the other one would be an event space or a photography studio, because we're using studios to do shoots for clients and shoots for ourselves. And so we're actually, funny that I mentioned that, because we're literally starting down the process of that today. We're having a second meeting with an event space and a photography studio to see if it's worth kind of starting to do due diligence on the business.
I'm curious, why are you looking the route of acquiring versus creating it yourself?
Yes. So we do a little bit of it right now. And I have gone back and forth with this between, well, we could just build out a creative department ourselves, like a full-blown creative department with coders and designers and all the things, and spend a couple $100,000 in payroll and have to do projects for cheap where we're either losing money or breaking even to prove that we are able to offer this kind of service. And that could work. That could be fine. However, I know how expensive it is to build out a team and then acquire clients. It's a lot of money and there's a lot of trial and error. And so what we're doing now is, if we have a client who's interested in creative, we'll work with contractors to come up with that service, but it's not like a full-blown creative department by any means. And so my mindset here is, well, why try to build it myself when I could just buy it? And if I can buy it, what I'm buying is the talent and I'm buying the clients. And I can get that for a pretty reasonable price, because there's so many different ways to structure deals, right? So I could come in and I could offer some sort of earnout where we're not paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for the agency on closing day. And they could be earning out that $200,000 over 2 years. And I could be paying them from the business, right? Like there's different ways to structure deals to where you can get a very reasonable price on an agency that's been around for 5, 10, or 20 years. And they've already worked through the kinks of building out a creative agency. And they already have a list of clients who trust them. And we can also move those clients into PR and marketing retainers as well. And we can move our clients currently into creative retainers like that. So that's kind of where my mindset is. I'm open to being swayed in the future. I'm not dead set on this. I think it's a really great idea, especially if I find an agency that makes sense. But who knows, right? Like we might have something pop up where there is an opportunity to build it in-house. But as it stands on today, June 13th, I really believe that buying it is going to be a better path for me personally.
I love this conversation because the only other person I see talk about this is Ashley Pollard from Team AP. I'm sure you know her. So it's like,
oh, she just was on our podcast like 2 months ago, and I was on her podcast and I was talking about mergers and acquisitions.
I'm like, has her podcast, have I seen that? I'm like, my stalker brain is like, what?
Yeah, I don't know if that came out yet. I'll have to look through her podcast to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember seeing you on her podcast. But it's a conversation that I think a lot of agency owners specifically could benefit from and expand their minds into, because I want to say 2 years ago, it never crossed my mind to build my business to the place that I could sell it. It was forever just I'm going to do this until I don't do it. Right? But there wasn't that end goal of well, I can build it to sell it and then move on to the next thing, instead of build it and then be just disband it, right? And so I really like conversations about this, and so I'm definitely gonna go stalk Ashley and see if that episode came out.
Yeah, let me know.
What?
I don't know if she was recording it for like the far off future, because you know how some people will batch
Yeah.
episodes and then they like release them in
Not
Q4
me.
or whatever. Maybe she was doing that, but I have advice for you if you're looking to build to sell, if you're open to it.
Yes, go for it.
And I'm giving this advice based on somebody who is looking for an acquisition, and there's certain things I'm looking for certain things in different agencies. And these are things that as an agency owner, you might just not think about, but it's something you should think about years and years ahead of time before you sell. So first things first is I don't want the owner involved in the day-to-day. Like your business should be a well-oiled machine with plenty of employees who have been around for a hot minute. I don't want to buy the owner. I want to buy the business. So hire some really great employees and teach them how to run the business. It could mean like a business manager you hired to run the team. It could be a COO like I have, but I want to see that the owner is removed. Next thing I want to see is at least like 3 to 5 years of very clean books. So make sure you keep up with your bookkeeping, you have your P&Ls, you have your balance sheets, all the things. I want to see that. I want to see very little debt in the business, like little to no debt. And I want to see really healthy margins. So for an agency, I'm looking for 20 to 30% margins. And so be really mindful of margins moving forward over the next couple of years. So those are a couple of things I'm looking for.
Those are great. I love that. I'm like, this is a good list to like file away in my brain.
Absolutely. File away, baby.
And like everyone listening, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. I would like to now like sway the conversation to the reason I actually reached out to you today, which was to talk about marketing on LinkedIn, because I know you have like moved over there. That's where you're like getting your people, making moves. That platform is not for me. So I'm curious, like, how did you first switch? Like, I knew you being big on Instagram, right? So it's like, how did you get into LinkedIn, end up on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So funny enough, I've been on the platform since I was 18 or 19 years old. So I don't know, what is that, 12 years, 11 years? And I've always really enjoyed LinkedIn, at least for the networking perspective. And when I was looking for jobs, LinkedIn was such a good place for me to find jobs. And so I've always been a fan of the platform. But when I started my business, my ideal client wasn't really on LinkedIn. Maybe they were, but they weren't active on the platform. And so I was way more active on Instagram because that's where my ideal client just existed. And so now what we look at Instagram as is Instagram is kind of our little portfolio. Clients can go and check out our work and they can see what we can do on Instagram, but that's really not where we're getting clients. I would say in the past year, we've maybe gotten one client from Instagram. We don't do any outbound on Instagram. Everything really comes from LinkedIn at this point, referrals, and then we have a lead generation site that we use as well. But LinkedIn is really big for us. So we do a ton of outbound on LinkedIn. And I also post pretty consistently. I say that, and now thinking back to the past couple of weeks, I've not posted consistently, but generally I'm posting pretty consistently on LinkedIn. And so when we're sending outbound messages, we're sending them to people who like we know. We take a really targeted approach. So I can kind of like give you an example, but what we're looking for is companies who either just went through like a round of fundraising, so we know they have money, or they're entering into a round of fundraising so they can build us in, or companies who are quite a bit bigger, where like we know they just have a pretty massive budget for PR anyways. People who are expanding, so people who are hiring multiple team members, we know they have money to spend on PR and marketing. People who have just won like awards for different things and are looking to like be a little bit more known. People who are expanding into like different locations. So yeah, we're pretty strategic with who we're reaching out to. We're not just like sending outbound to like tons and tons of people and like with a message that isn't relevant. So if you were to literally go into my LinkedIn right now and look at our messages, it would say things like, hey, I just saw that you guys expanded into a third location on X road. How's it going so far? Like we know a lot about what is going on with the prospects we're reaching out to. And the number of times I've hopped on a sales call and people are like, that was the best message I've ever received. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Because they're so highly personal. It's not like, hey, buy my course, that's $97. Like we're actually genuinely curious about what's going on in the business. And from there, we're asking, to hop on a sales call, and we're letting them know like what the call is about. We're letting them know what kind of services we offer and the value we can bring to the table. And we have gotten some really interesting people on sales calls from those messages. So if your type of client is, I would say, more of like a corporate-y type of client, right? Like maybe they have a product that they're selling, they're probably making $10 million in revenue per year and beyond. I would say LinkedIn is going to be a really great platform because, one, those types of people are easy to target on LinkedIn. You can go to the company's page and find the CEO and literally message the CEO. Whereas on Instagram, if you're messaging a company, you don't know who you're messaging. It could be an assistant, it could be a social media manager, it could be a marketing manager, it could be the CEO. You don't really know who you're talking to, but on LinkedIn, you always know who you're talking to. And so for that reason, like ever since we really shifted into done for you services, and I say we, meaning me, I have been much more active on the platform, and we've done a lot more outbound on the platform. So I would say for the past like 2 to 3 years, we've gone really hard on LinkedIn.
And I know that you, like you said, you have like your lead gen site that you like get the leads off of. What would you say is like the percentage of like LinkedIn versus like other ways that clients come to you?
I would say in 2024, it's definitely shifted. So I would say 70% of our clients are coming from LinkedIn, 20% probably from bark.com, the site where we get leads from, and then 10% would be like referral or some other
Random
method. The other way we get clients, which is really interesting, I forgot to mention this, is we have a really good relationship with a VC firm here called Render Capital. And we're like their go-to PR and marketing agency. So when they invest money into a new company and that company's looking for services, they just send them our way. And so that's been really, really fun. Yeah, it's been so great. We actually got to speak at an event they had about a month ago, right before Kentucky Derby. And we spoke to like, gosh, I don't know, maybe like 50 of their portfolio brands. And it was just really fun. So like we have that automatic like trust and like credibility built in because we're associated with Render Capital.
That's awesome. And do you only work with people local?
No. Oh my gosh. So what's funny is because I'm trying to expand here locally, and every time I meet with a prospect here, they're like, oh, like, do you only work with clients here? And I'm like, we've had maybe 7 or 8 clients from Louisville, Kentucky at this point. We just don't have that many here. And part of it is there's not a ton of larger businesses here that can justify the cost of our services, really. And so a lot of our clients are coming from elsewhere. Like we've worked with clients from all over the world, and it's been really fun. But yeah, my goal would be to expand here more locally. I'd love to get into the bourbon industry a little bit more. And so as a team, we've been spending a lot more time in Bardstown, Kentucky, which is about an hour south of Louisville. And it's where I think 95% of the world's bourbon is made. It's where all the distilleries are. And so we've been going to meetings, gosh, I don't know, like once a week down in Bardstown, trying to establish ourselves there.
That's so cool. I went to a cocktail tasting for my bachelorette, and I was like, I really like whiskey, and nobody drinks whiskey here. And so it was like the first time that I had whiskey in so long, and all the girls that were with me were like, oh my God, it's so smoky. And I was like, it's so good. It's so good. Like, why haven't I drank this?
The interesting thing about bourbon is like, it really depends on the mash bill, which is the recipe, and how long it's been aging for. So like the longer something ages, the smoother it is. But every bourbon is like a little bit different. So if you want smoky, they have smoky. If you want something spicy, they have rye. If you want something smooth, they have that too. So yeah, bourbon's really interesting. And I think why I'm such a bourbon girl is because I moved here when I was 18, and it's just such a big part of the culture here. And so I think my boyfriend at the time was a bourbon drinker. So I was like, I need to be cool and drink bourbon too. I never had beer before, never had wine. Like I was not a drinker at all, like never drank in high school. And so I had bourbon, and I was just like hooked. And now I cannot drink wine. I cannot drink beer. I've tried beer so many times, and I just don't have taste for it. So it is really funny how like once you start drinking something, it's really hard to switch to something else.
Oh, yeah. And that's like, I mean, I am Canadian. I grew up in Canada, and like drinking whiskey sours was my 18, 19, 20 ages. And like now I live in France and they drink red wine and I cannot drink red wine. I can drink white
Ugh.
wine, but like they drink dry white wine, which I don't like, and they drink red wine. So I just like don't really drink. And I'm just like, maybe I should just go find some rye because I actually do like alcohol. Like, I
Why
just
does
don't
red
like what you
wine?
drink.
No, red wine to me tastes like cough syrup.
Really? It tastes
I
like
don't.
headaches
Maybe
to
I
me
was
because
maybe. Yeah, headaches that too. But what kind? Like now I'm like, what kind of cough syrup were my parents giving me when I was little?
I don't know, because mine
But
was
that's what it
grape
tastes like to
flavored.
me.
But like
Oh, mine was wine flavored.
yeah, it was like not wine flavored grapes, like grape candy. Yeah,
That
no,
sounds way better.
red wine gives me migraines, so I think I've just like decided that it tastes awful because I always end up with a migraine. Okay, I was gonna ask what your go-to message, but you shared one. In your experience, what kind of posts have been your top performers to like bring people into your world on LinkedIn?
Okay, so these are not the posts that people are typically comfortable posting. And so I'm going to say this, and people are going to be like, but LinkedIn is so professional. And yes, while it's professional, it's not as professional as you probably think it is. So there was a post that I put up about mental health, specifically like my mental health journey, like what I've been through and where I'm at today. I think I put it up like a year ago. And I think it got like, gosh, 40,000 or 50,000 views and like hundreds of comments and likes. And I got so many DMs from it. But it was just like me being vulnerable about what it's been like as a CEO to struggle with mental health. Um, and so many people clearly felt the same way. And it's something that everybody deals with, whether you're a CEO or not. And not enough people talk about it, especially on LinkedIn. So it's something that clearly resonated with people. So, like, that did so well. So, I would say, like, personal stuff does perform well, especially if you can bring it back to you as a professional. Now, there was a post that I saw that was so cringy, and I would not recommend this, but I saw a post recently that was like, I proposed to my wife, and here's what it taught me about insider sales. And it was so bad. It was like, number one, you have to be patient. Number two, you have to show them the product first. And I was like, what's the product here, buddy? Like, my mind is going places it shouldn't go. So it was like a really cringy post. So, like, make it genuine, make it very you, but like, let's not make it too cringy.
Yeah. Yeah. And like piggybacking off of that, have you noticed a type of content or post that leads more towards conversions?
Yep. Posts where I'm talking about, I would say like it's an educational post and I'm giving specific examples. That always does really well. Like I would say we get a couple of messages about that, like, hey, tell me more about this, or I'm really curious about your services. And so like I talk a lot about newsjacking, and essentially what newsjacking is you're just attaching yourself onto what's already being talked about on the news. So for example, we had a client who is an emergency management professional, and there was a fan who died at a Taylor Swift concert last year in November. And so we pitched her for stories about concert safety because of the Taylor Swift concert. You know what I mean? So like you're looking at what is currently trending, how can you give your opinion or your insights onto what is currently going on? And so anytime I talk about that on LinkedIn, it seems to get a lot of attention.
Which makes sense because you're literally showing like how much you know about what you claim to know shit about. Right?
Exactly.
It's not just the
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
this is how you get on, this is how you get featured, this is like how you get out there, this is how you write your sales pitch. Like, no, like I want to know like how are you actually going to get me in the big news publications or on the big podcast beyond just like that you can, because that's literally your job to do it.
Yeah. I try to show people how I think when
Hmm.
I post on LinkedIn. Like I want people to understand like our process, our methodology. And if they want to take it and run with it, that's great. I mean, more power to them. I know people won't. Like I could literally give you step-by-step directions on how to get featured. And I know that 1% of people will actually take it and run with it. And I think that's what people think of. They think that if they share everything on social media, that people aren't going to buy from them, but that's so far from the truth.
And especially for done for you people, I feel like they're so afraid of like showing your process, showing your framework, because I do the same thing like with my content repurposing strategy. And I'm like, if you want to do it yourself, go for it. But do they want to do it themselves? No. Like nobody wants to watch their own podcast or like read through their own content. They'd rather give it to someone, and they'd rather give it to someone that has proven they're going to like help them achieve whatever result they're looking for.
Exactly. You have to show people how you do things. So like they're going to be more likely to hop on a sales call with you if they know more about you and your process. So don't be afraid to share it. And I would say the posts that you didn't ask this question, but the posts that perform the worst on LinkedIn, so surprising, but like client success stories don't perform well on LinkedIn.
Really?
It's so funny. I could be like, look, we got our clients into Forbes and da-da-da-da, and people don't care.
That's so interesting, because I feel like on Instagram, those are the ones that people are like, tell me more. How can I be that person?
But LinkedIn, people do not give a crap.
Very interesting. Good, like, file away.
Oh, the other thing with LinkedIn. Wait, hold on. I have to interrupt you. I've noticed that pictures of me, when I attach them onto the post, perform significantly better. And when it comes to LinkedIn, you don't have to like dance on video. You don't have to like shake your butt, although I'm sure that would perform really well. It's not all about video content like it is on TikTok or like it is on Instagram. It's about dwell time. So it's like, how long is somebody dwelling on the content? And so that's how I create content, is like, how can I get someone to sit here and read it and really think about it and engage with it? It doesn't have to be video. It can be text. In fact, you don't see video content of me anywhere on my LinkedIn. It's all pictures and text.
That's like a good question that I meant to ask and then it slipped my mind. But like when it comes to like your top performing content and your top converting content, are you always putting pictures? Is it pictures of you? Do you ever use like graphics with like words on it? Like what are you seeing work?
Yeah, great question. So I typically will post pictures of myself. And I think part of it is I'm reasonably good looking. I'm going to toot my own horn for a second. And so I think that helps people stop and they're like, scroll. Oh, okay. Picture of girl, go back up, read the text. Oh, this is actually interesting. And so part of it is like, I just know what I look like. And I know that like people will stop and look for a second. God, this sounds really conceited. And I'm hoping that nobody thinks I'm super full of myself when I say this, but I know what works and I use it to my advantage. But it does, like a picture does help things stand out a little bit more. So whether it's a picture of you, a picture of your dog, like something to get people to pay attention.
All right. I would love for the Nosy Nellies and myself if you could share a like big or exciting or like funny win from your LinkedIn marketing experiences.
Big funny. Okay, I would say big win that I love this so much. So I had posted something on LinkedIn that caught somebody's attention from PPG, which is a, gosh, I don't know, $5 or $10 billion company. And they had messaged me on LinkedIn and wanted to learn a bit more about what we do. So we hopped on a call and I ended up signing PPG as a client. And that all happened because I posted on LinkedIn.
I'm like, is everyone listening? That's massive.
And we also signed Skechers from LinkedIn as well.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So like you can get a hold of those really big brands on the platform where you can't do that on other platforms, but you can literally go to LinkedIn, type in your company that you are dying to work with into the search bar, click on the company page, click on employees at the company, and go find the person who makes decisions, whether it's the CEO, if it's a smaller company, or maybe it's a marketing director at a larger company. And you can message them and say, hi.
Yeah, like for me, I know that end of 2025 goals is definitely to expand who we work with. Like I've worked with like magazines, I've worked with like product-based businesses, but like not a lot. Like I still majority work with like service-based businesses and coaches and stuff. And so that's where like my goal at the beginning of 2024 was to go on LinkedIn because I want to expand beyond just like the Instagram entrepreneurs, for lack of a better word. But then I got sucked into Threads, and now I'm obsessed with Threads and spend all my time there. So again, like it's now my Q4 goal is to like get to LinkedIn.
Yes, come to the dark side meaning LinkedIn. And when you're ready to jump on LinkedIn, let me know. And I'm happy to review your profile and give you some tips and tricks to optimize it a little bit more.
Yeah,
But I
like
will say, I'm addicted to Threads. I don't post on Threads, but I scroll on Threads, kind of like I don't post on TikTok, but I scroll on TikTok. It's very engaging.
I could not only scroll on Threads. Like I see constant stuff that I'm like, I want to talk about this. Like let's answer. Like you're my new best friend. Like Threads is like where it's at. And like it came completely unexpected, but like Q1 I signed only clients from Threads. Like nothing from
What?
Instagram and my podcast as well, but like only Threads. And then I was like, okay, like forget LinkedIn. I'm just going to go ham on Threads because I'm just getting so many clients.
That is crazy. I never even considered that people could sign clients from Threads. That's so cool.
I get asked all the time, they're like, how do people sign clients? And I was just like, I don't honestly know. Like talk to people. But
That is
yeah,
so cool. I love that for you.
I love it for me too. Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Ooh, I would say specifically about LinkedIn, when you're engaging on the platform, people only see your headshot, your name, and then they see your headline as well. And so you have to make sure that that is very optimized and it like represents who you are and what you do. So a lot of people make this mistake where yes, they have a beautiful headshot and yes, they have their name, but their headline section will be like CEO. And there's a lot of real estate to be used when it comes to the headline. So you really want to put, yes, your title, what you are, but you want to put what you do and how you help people in a call to action. So, for example, my headline is PR agency CEO, 280 brands. Our clients have been featured in Forbes, USA Today, NBC, Bustle, New York Post, Business Insider, and more. Ask me how.
I love
And
it.
so this is what people see when I'm like commenting and whatnot. Like people see this and they go, oh, who's this chick? And so you're going to get so many people who come to your profile and want to learn more based on your headline.
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that's like LinkedIn gives you, I don't want to say like more opportunities, but like on Instagram, on other platforms, really, it's just like your headshot and your handle, right? And then it's like they have to go to your page and see your bio, but not everyone's going to click on your page based off of the comment. Where like LinkedIn, you kind of have that little extra like push to incite curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in my future.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, the question I ask everyone to end this show, which I like completely forgot last month, but that's fine, is what makes you an unprofessional entrepreneur?
I mean, do you see me right now? Do I need words? I guess I probably need words for the people who aren't watching this, but I'm fresh out of bed. I have a pimple growing in the middle of my eyebrows and I'm not wearing makeup and I'm wearing a tank top. It basically looks like I'm naked right now and I'm not naked. Like I'm fully wearing a tank top on this call, but yeah, like this is, I'm not, and I have a dying plant in the background. Like this is my plant graveyard.
From here, you can't tell it's dead.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you can't see it because it's like screaming for help. So bad.
Well, I love it. I also have a dead aloe vera in my room that I just keep because it's the only plant I have. But this is just how it works. Where can the people find you? Actually, no, before that, what's next for Neat?
What's next? Okay, so we came up with a physical product, which I didn't even talk about on this podcast, but we did come out with a physical product. It's called High Proof PR Deck. I'll actually show you. It is a deck of it's an educational card deck that has all of our agency's tips, tricks, methodologies for getting featured. We literally have scripts, step-by-step instructions, like everything you need to get in the media or work with influencers or collaborate with brands. It's in this card deck for $97. This is version 1. And I will say, I don't really love version 1 because the box isn't up to par. Like and you can hear the cards moving around. Like, it's not that great, but all the information is there. It's all here. So we're going to make improvements over time to this card deck. We're in the process of finding a new manufacturer. So stay tuned for version 2. But if you want to buy version 1, it's on our website, meettheagency.com. But what's next for us is definitely growing through mergers and acquisitions. I mean, we're actively looking to make an acquisition by end of year. So we'll see how things end up working out with that. But I really am, my goal is to turn Neat into a holding company. And then underneath it, we're going to have a bunch of agencies, tech companies, event spaces, all the things that are really complementary to each other. And so I'd love to get Neat to, I don't know, like a 30, 40, $50 million company as a whole, as a holding company. And that's my retirement plan. So I'm just going to sell it when I'm good and ready to move on to my next chapter of life.
That's so cool. I'm like, we all need to think a little bigger because my thoughts are not that far. I'm like 5 years retirement plan, 5 years.
That's so funny. Have you ever, like, a side note, not related to this episode, have you ever read, oh my God, where's the book? I think it's on my bookshelf. It's called Traction.
It's all about, so bad for business books.
Oh no. Okay, well, if you're feeling wild, you should read Traction. It's all about EOS, which is like a way of running your business. And after reading EOS and like meeting with an EOS integrator, I have really started to think much bigger and much further out into the future because it's helping me plan backwards. Like, I know if I want a $40 million company, I'm not going to grow Neat on its own to $40 million, right? Like, I'm going to have to buy other companies. I'm going to have to turn this into a holding company. So it's just made me think a little bit bigger and longer term and more strategically than I have before.
I love that. I have started and never finished so many business books, and I don't know what it is. I just can't do it. And I wish I could.
That's fair. No, business books are tough. Like, I have to spice it up. I'll go between like business books and then something that is a little more like brain candy, and then I'll jump back to business books.
Yeah, no, I'm just the brain candy.
Totally fair.
Okay, so where can everybody find you?
You can find me in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm just kidding. Don't show up to my house. You can find me at meettheagency.com. You can find me on Instagram at, I don't really know our Instagram handle. Hold on a second. Our Instagram handle is neat_the_agency. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Jen Hartmann. I don't think there's a lot of Jen Hartmann, so you can easily find me Hartmann with 2 N's, Jen with 1 N. A lot of people like to get those confused. And then I also have a podcast that is coming back out this month called Served Neat.
I was going to ask that if your podcast is coming back because I love it.
It's coming back, and I'm going to have a co-host for the first time ever.
Is it your
It's
COO?
going to be wild. Maybe.
See how well I know you?
You're gonna have to wait and see.
It's okay. This episode won't come out till July, so it'll be a surprise.
Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. No big deal. Yeah. It's our COO, and I'm really excited because she's one of my best friends. So we have some like really good rapport. We joke a lot. I think it'll be a really great season of Serve Neat.
That's exciting. Sounds like you've got exciting things in the works for 30 years old.
Exciting things. How are you celebrating your birthday?
I have no idea. I have planned a pool party, but the weather here is so 50-50 right now. And I'm just like, please be warm enough to swim in the pool next week.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you.
There's a chance the pool is like 18 degrees and the kids use it and I don't.
Oh no. Okay, I'll keep my fingers crossed. I'm sending good birthday vibes your way.
What are your plans?
I am going to do a big birthday dinner with some of my closest friends here and probably go out for drinks after.
That's fun. I love it.
I'm excited because I never celebrate my birthday with
No?
like friends or anything. I don't. Every year I do something really small, like my husband and I will go get drinks or something, but I'm really not like a big birthday celebrator. But I figured for my 30th I wanted to do something
I was gonna
fun.
say, I feel like for 30, it's a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like big birthdays, like you have 21, you have 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth every 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, last year I went away for like 2 nights, I think. We just like went to an Airbnb a couple hours away and had like a couples weekend.
Oh, that's so fun. Maybe I'll do that for 31. You're giving me good like 31, 32 ideas.
Yeah, it's like it's an easy, you can always do it kind of celebration.
I love that. Well, happy early birthday. I can't wait to hear all about yours.
You too. And I will chat to you soon. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you everyone for listening. I will catch you all when I catch you on another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur.